The world's first aviation accident. John Damian was an Italian, serving in the court of King James IV, best known as an alchemist, and, let's be honest, a con artist, which makes sense considering he burned through a ridiculous amount of royal money without producing a single useful thing. And yet, for some reason, King James and his courtiers adored him. They even gave him the fancy nickname Doctor of Physic, which sounds impressive until you realize he was about as competent as a fish trying to climb a ladder. As an alchemist, Damian was, well, spectacularly bad. King James, despite being an intelligent ruler, wasn't exactly a science guy. So, naturally, he handed Damian the ultimate mad scientist assignment, turning regular metal into gold. Genius idea, right? This absurd project consumed a small fortune's worth of mercury, quartz, gold, tin, and even a silver ring. And after all that effort, guess how much gold Damian produced? That's right, zero. Nada. Nothing. Big shocker. But if he was a terrible alchemist, you'd think he'd at least be a decent scam artist, right? Wrong. By 1504, rumors started swirling that Dr. Damian was just mooching off the royal family. His job security was looking shakier than his science experiments, and he needed a grand stunt to prove his worth. So, naturally, he decided to fly. Yes, you heard that right. Damian announced he would take to the skies using a pair of wings he built himself. And honestly, we all know how this is going to end. Originally, he planned to use the majestic feathers of eagles, a solid choice if you're trying to look impressive. But for some mysterious reason, he ended up using chicken feathers, collected from the royal poultry farms instead. Why? Who knows? But let's be real, it wouldn't have mattered. This idea was doomed from the start. When his magnificent wings were finally ready, Damian climbed up to the walls of Stirling Castle. Below, a small crowd gathered, including King James himself, probably thinking, well, this should be interesting. And then he jumped, and then he fell, and then he landed in a giant pit of manure. Yes, a 21-meter deep pile of royal poop saved his life, though unfortunately it didn't save his dignity or his legs, which he managed to break. A poet named William Dunbar later wrote about the event. Damian claimed he'd soar the skies, so he built some wings. What a surprise! He flapped and leapt, but then he fell, broke 3 bones, and blamed it all on chicken feathers. Damian himself later defended his failure, claiming, "Chickens belong in manure, not the sky." Deep wisdom from a man who had just face-planted into a dung heap. Yet, despite all this, King James remained surprisingly generous. When Damian retired to a monastery in 1509, the king granted him a rather substantial pension. Maybe Damian was just the court's designated guy who does dumb stuff for laughs, and this particular stunt had been especially entertaining. Or maybe King James still secretly believed that one day Damian would finally crack the alchemy code and turn lead into gold. It was an era where imagination ran wild, where science and magic blurred together, and where, for a brief moment, one man tried and failed to take flight, leaving behind nothing but broken bones, crushed pride, and a very smelly legacy.